So one story that came out of the Austrian Grand Prix weekend, if you could actually see anything that weekend because the whole thing looked like a sandstorm on Tatooine, was the fact that Sebastian Vettel had been fined for something he'd done in the driver's briefing on Friday, and that's got quite literally some people talking. Vettel was apparently fined €25,000 for the crime of walking out of the driver's briefing, and the stewards added that he'd walked out without permission and expressed frustration. Walking out of the driver's briefing then seems to be pretty serious. Maybe he really needed a wee. But it's actually written in black and white in the International Sporting Code and in the sporting regulations. All drivers must attend the meeting and stay for the whole thing, irrespective of how dull, boring, tedious, and how much you really need to poo. And while Vettel did apologise after the sprint race to the stewards and race director Niels Wittich, we'll go with Wittich today, the FIA said that this can't be processed without a fine. So Vettel was fined. €25,000 suspended, so provided he turns up to the rest of the drivers' briefings for the rest of the season, he won't have to pay anything. So why did Vettel walk out? Well, it's all to do with stewards' inconsistencies that have been happening over the course of the season. Yeah, same stuff, different day, eh? The British Grand Prix last week had one major accident involving Guan Yu Zhou, and the other big talking point was the repeated forcing off of drivers across the whole weekend. There was Verstappen on Schumacher, Perez on Hamilton, and others. Now note what I've said there. There were others. I repeat, there were others. I'm not saying it was just Max and just Checo. Now, why I have to do this, it's a mystery to me, but you mention one driver or another and not mention another one, people take it as a personal attack on their guy. And I talked about the whole forcing drivers wide thing in the aftermath of the British Grand Prix. Do it once, as long as nobody's smashed up, go for it. Second time, okay, it's getting a bit silly. Third onwards, and then you've got to start looking at it. And again, that's the case regardless of who the driver is. Max, Checo, Hamilton, Leclerc, Stroll, even Latifi. Again, let's just get that clear because in that previous Pressing Issues episode about the British Grand Prix, people heard what they wanted to hear. And it's getting boring. And Vettel wasn't the only driver to speak up about this because Alonso was as well. Which drivers were in agreement, it hasn't actually been publicly known, but it was a number of drivers. We know that it was Vettel, Alonso, and probably Russell as well. And Russell actually said to the FIA, there has been a lot of borderline decisions or manoeuvres this season, whether it's defending or track limits in a racing scenario like last week at Silverstone. We don't want to be dishing penalties out left, right and centre, but there needs to be an element of consistency somewhere. It seems then that it doesn't matter who the race director is. There's going to be inconsistencies at the FIA. All through 2018 there was a video like this up nearly every race weekend mentioning the inconsistencies in the dishing out of penalties, and that was 2 race directors ago with Charlie Whiting, then again with his replacement in Michael Masi. What F1 has now is 2 race directors who are used. Niels Wittich, who was in charge this weekend, and also Eduardo Freitas, both brought in following Michael Masi's controversial handling of last season's final Grand Prix. And it's written in the rulebook, Appendix L, Chapter 4, Article 2 of the FIA International Sporting Code. Forcing another driver off the track is against the rules and failing to leave space is a punishable offence. However, this example was done at a corner where there was gravel on the outside. When it's a track like Silverstone or Paul Ricard with all the tarmac runoff, the job becomes a little more difficult because squeezing a dude out of road and over the white line when there's a million acres of runoff is a lot less dangerous than forcing a guy onto the gravel, because with gravel, all of that stuff is then dragged onto the track. And while forcing a guy onto gravel is a little bit different to forcing a guy onto tarmac, this is the same FIA that says the white line is the white line, the track limit is the track limit. So, where do you draw the line? The FIA has tried to. For the 2022 season, the rules were changed to say that if a driver is overtaking on the inside of a corner, they must have a significant portion of the car alongside to be given space. The rule also states that the car doing the overtake must remain within the white lines. Nothing's mentioned about the car being overtaken. If it's an overtake around the outside, the rule is the same, but on this occasion, both cars must remain within the white lines. So for pretty much all of the overtakes at Silverstone last weekend, they were legal, because both cars remained within the white lines. But it's a rule that's contradicted by the International Sporting Code. The exact wording is, manoeuvres liable to hinder other drivers, such as deliberate crowding of a car beyond the edge of the track or any other abnormal change of direction, are strictly prohibited. Any driver who appears guilty of any of the above offences will be reported to the stewards. The International Sporting Code also says that the white lines are the track limits, while curbs are not. So you're allowed to force a driver off the road, but at the same time you're not allowed to force a driver off the road. Which is it? And this is where Vettel has been getting frustrated, and he says that this is a debate that's been going on for the whole time he's been in the sport, and he said that he's sick of it. And whenever I hear the words sick of it, I always hear it in Carl Pilkington's voice for some reason. The FIA made a statement saying that drivers of this level are role models for every driver around the world, and in the opinion of the stewards, Sebastian Vettel has failed to live up to that standard in this case. Well, in the opinion of this motorsport fan, he stood up for what he believed in. Apparently the whole meeting made Vitic uncomfortable, and having a driver walk out sends a powerful point. Vettel has got their attention. Then it gets reported by the press, people want to find out why this happened, and so on. And yes, I know these videos have been done at length a million times before. It's like the same 3 words sung to the same 4 chords in pop music. But on this occasion, you've got one rule that says one thing, and then a rule that says something completely different. One rule that says it's perfectly fine to force a guy off the road if you are inside the white lines, and then another rule that's saying don't force drivers beyond the white lines. And I can understand why the drivers want some sort of clarification on this. They know the rulebooks inside out, their teams know the rulebooks inside out, they're always looking for that little bit of an advantage. But on this occasion, they just want some simple clarification. So anyway, this has been a thing that has happened, and you have now received my opinions on the thing. If this thing has made you think things about the thing, then click the thing that makes you like this thing, and also subscribe to this thing and get the bell thing on so you're notified of every thing that I do on this thing. Massive thanks as ever to the kind folk over at Patreon, and if you want to help contribute to the image purchasing fund, you can help out by following the link down in the description, but there'll also be links to Discord and all that good stuff. So until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind. Time to cool off a little bit, it's quite warm today, and I'll see you all again soon for another video. Bye.